Good morning, first graders. Today, we are going to be retelling the important events that happened at the beginning, middle, and end of the book Afternoon on the Amazon. And before you begin, you're going to watch me do a practice retelling of a beginning, middle, and end of a story that you are probably already familiar with. So let's go ahead and take a look here together. So when we are writing a beginning, middle, and end of a story, we're going to be focusing on these items here that I am showing you in the anchor chart. So when we are retelling the beginning of a story, right here where the B is, we're going to be telling them what the setting is. Remember, setting is where and when a story takes place. So when we do the beginning of a story, we're going to be focusing on the characters and the setting. So let's try this out together. The familiar story that I want us to practice with today is going to be Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I picked this story because I thought it would probably be an easy story for us all to think about and use because we've all heard the story. So if I'm going to retell the beginning of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, I'm definitely not going to start at the point where Goldilocks runs out of their house, right? Because that's something that happened at the end of the story. Instead, I'm going to look at this anchor chart and remember, this is where I tell who the characters are and what the setting is. So, the characters in Goldilocks and the Three Bears are Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So what I would do, right next to the B, you're going to have a paper just that looks very similar to this to do your writing on today. So you would start by saying who the characters are. In the book that we're practicing with right now, we are focusing on the characters being Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I want to say the characters in this story are Goldilocks and the Three Bears. All right, so we've done part of telling the beginning. We told who the characters are, but now we need to tell the setting. Remember, setting is where and when a story takes place. Well, think with me for just a minute in your head. What was the setting of Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Well, I know that in Goldilocks and the Three Bears, it was taking place in a house. And the house that it was taking place in was the bear's house. It's the place where Goldilocks went in and she ate their food and she slept in their chair. She tried out their chairs and slept in their beds. So the setting must be the bear's house. So our next sentence would sound like this. The setting of this story is the bear's house. I've now told my audience who the characters are and what the setting is. Now I'm going to focus on telling the middle of the story. This is where, if we look at the anchor chart, where we answer this question. What is happening to the characters? Well, in the story Goldilocks and the Three Bears, what happened to the characters? Goldilocks went into the Three Bears' house when they weren't there, and she did a whole bunch of things. She tried out their chairs. She ate their food. She slept in their beds, and she didn't have their permission to do this. The bears were gone. So I want to write something like that. I'm going to start. Goldilocks. Let me make this a little smaller. All right, Goldilocks goes into the bear's house. She eats their food, tries out their chairs, and sleeps in their bed. I think right here I want to go back and add a little detail to the sentence. Goldilocks goes into the bear's house when they are gone. I think that was important. All right, now I'm going to go back and read what I wrote here for the middle. Goldilocks goes into the bear's house when they are gone. She eats their food, tries out their chairs, and sleeps in their beds. I've told what happened to the characters. I told what happened to Goldilocks. What did she do that was really important? She went into the bear's house. Next, I am going to focus on the E. E stands for end. How did the characters solve the problem? Did the characters change? Well, in this story, Goldilocks was in the bear's house when they were gone. How did that problem get solved? Well, Goldilocks left the house when the bears came home and found her sleeping in Baby Bear's bed. So when I write the end, I always like to start like this. I always like to start by saying at the end of the story. At the end of the story, Goldilocks, or the three bears, came home and found Goldilocks sleeping in their bed, in Baby Bear's bed. But the story didn't just end there. They didn't just find Goldilocks sleeping in their bed. Goldilocks screamed when she saw them and ran out of the house. So I'm going to include that. And ran away from the house. All right. Now when we go back and we read everything that we wrote, because that's going to be important, reading the beginning, middle, and end, and making sure that if someone that hadn't read your book could tell the main parts of the story that happened from what you write, that's a good sign that you have a really good beginning, middle, and end of your story written or retold. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. And I want you to do that today too after you write your beginning, middle, and end. Okay? So the characters in the story are Goldilocks and the three bears. The setting of the story is the bear's house. Goldilocks goes into the bear's house when they are gone. She eats their food, tries out their chairs, and sleeps in their bed. At the end of the story, the three bears came home and found Goldilocks sleeping in Baby Bear's bed. Goldilocks saw the bears and ran away from the house. So I've got all the really important events that happened in the story. Somebody that had not read the story would be able to understand what happened from what I wrote here with the beginning, middle, and end. So today, when you are doing your beginning, middle, and end for Afternoon on the Amazon, you are going to, let me pull up that slide for you. You are going to use this form right here that I have linked. It has a spot for you to write the beginning, middle, and end. And you're going to think about all these guiding questions here on the anchor chart that we went through together when we were doing an example with Goldilocks and the three bears. And that will really help you stay on track with writing your beginning, middle, and end. Because you're not going to write every single thing that happened in the story, okay? Or you'd be writing a long time because this is a long text that we just read. When you are done, I want you to read your writing at least 2 times and see how it sounds. Then send your completed writing to me. All right, friends, that's it today for beginning, middle, and end. Hope this video was helpful. Go back and watch it again if you get stuck once you get going on the assignment. Make it a great day.